Bhaktaha Shtunvanti Daboshtavoi Vedayi Sangapada Kramo Upanishadoi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyana Vashtita Tadgatena Manasha Pashanti Yam Yogino Yashantam Navidduhu Sura Suragana Devaya Tashmai Namaha. Our eternal salutations to that one who is the truth of life and existence, and whom the saints and sages call by various names. Our eternal salutations to that one whose glories are sung in the different religious traditions of the world, but whose infinite and undying grandeur no mortal mind can comprehend. Our eternal salutations to that one upon whom the devotees meditate in the shrine of their heart, realizing an ineffable presence in their deepest contemplation. May he prompt our minds toward the path of truth and righteousness. May she reveal herself into our souls and dispel the gloom of death, fear, doubt, and darkness. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Vedanta Siddhanta Nirukti Resha Brahmaiva Jivaham Sakalam Jagadcha Akanda Rupastiti Reva Moksho Brahmadvitiye Shrutayaha Pramanam. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. It is the final conclusion of the Vedanta that all is Brahman. Time, space, living beings, and the world. Living in constant recognition of this fact is what is called enlightenment. Brahman is one without a second, pure and perfect, and the revealed scriptures are the sure and certain proof of this fact. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana, Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidveshovahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman, the reality, protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. Namaste, everyone here today, and also our live streaming audience from around the world. And aloha from Hawaii, as we say here. We are broadcasting the second in a series of 2 classes that we have been able to present to all those who are interested in the truth of life and existence, as we just chanted, the deeper, subtle meaning behind the appearance of things. The word is called Maya. But Shankara insists that all is Brahman, time, space, living beings in the world. He's one of the most notable and illumined of all non-dualists. So he's found a way to turn this world into Brahman. And that way, according to some, including Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, is called Ananya Bhakti. And that's the subject of our 2 classes last week, Sunday, which is now recorded and you can look back on if you weren't here with us live. And then this week's class, if you want an English translation of that, it's called The Devotion of Non-Separation. So the phrase suggests in English that there's this, if we want to approach it from a qualified non-dual standpoint, not the strictly non-dual standpoint, that there's this coupling of bhakti, devotion, and jnanam, a natural companionship, a marriage, although that marriage has not been without fights, as many marriages are. throughout time, because those who have professed the path of knowledge have quite often come in contact and disagreed with those who believe in the path of bhakti. So the devotion of non-separation suggests that there is this natural oneness that's inherent in all things. It's not something that is there in the origin of things. It's something more along the lines of the sense of separation, as we looked at last week. These two charts which you see are just a quick review of what we saw last week in terms of taking an approach that is both of the jnana style and of the bhakti style. When we talk about the devotion of non-separation, then it suggests that there is a sense of separation, a schism, a chasm sometimes, between these two paths of love and wisdom. But as one notable old seer who was living in my lifetime once told me, Babaji, it's just a matter of you know what you love and you love what you know. So you could put it in terms that once you, and this is Krishna's way of speaking, once you purify the mind of ignorance, then love is the natural result. But until you purify the mind of ignorance, you're loving all the wrong things in the wrong way. So this is nahi gyanena sudrishyam pavitram miha vidyate. That is basically, there is no purifier in all the worlds like knowledge, like wisdom. And that is said by Sri Krishna in the Gita, who might as well be the god of love as far as India is concerned. So you have beings like Shankara saying the whole world is Brahman, and he's the great Shaivite non-dualist. And then you have being like Sri Krishna coming from the Vaishnava perspective. On the other side of the coin, you might say, saying that you need to purify the mind with the greatest purifier in the world, wisdom, before you really can truly love or know what love is. In other words, you'll be looking for love in all the wrong places, to sort of change the words of a popular song. And you know how Swami Vivekananda, whose birthday was yesterday, and that we celebrated with a puja last night, how he put it was, God is not in the world is in God. So he's giving you some good advice and also a very interesting turn of phrase in English, a way of looking at it from the standpoint of a direct approach, from that inherent approach that we call Advaita, or non-duality. We feel, and Krishna concurs, that it's the string that runs through all the pearls. Pearls could be the worlds of space and time. And when we talk about space and time in India, remember we're talking about 5 different atmospheres. I was thinking of another idea for a chart. Everybody goes, oh no, Babaji, not another chart. Because I've presented some 250 of these to you so far, so that the Westerners can have visuals along with audibles. So this idea for a new chart would be just to show an ice cube, and then how it melts into water, and then how the water turns into vapor, and then how the vapor dissipates. So you have sort of a 4-phase of the lifetime of an ice cube. So if you call us ice cubes, we're the solidified body-mind mechanism, then we have the waking state, which is our ice cube state, our formed state, and then we have liquid, which is our dreaming state, and then we have gaseous, which is our deep sleep state, and finally we have dissipated. We go into formlessness, turiya, or I hope we all do in this lifetime, consciously. It's called samadhi, and as far as Shankar is concerned, you should have samadhi. He says it in the Vivekachudamani. He says, practice having samadhi. And Sri Ramakrishna came some 1,300 years later, 1,200 years later, and said pretty much the same thing in the 1800s. He said samadhi is really your true nature. It's the natural state of your being. It shouldn't be something you should think about in terms of, oh, maybe I'll get that later. Sort of like a post-mortem enlightenment, a post-mortem emancipation that my teacher used to talk about. He said, I'm not interested in a post-mortem anything. I want it here and now, because that's what Brahman is. It's the present moment. It's not past, present, and future present moment. It's the eternal moment. And in that eternal moment, all of this takes place, and that eternal moment is an eternal moment, and it can't be breached. In other words, time is illusory in its march. Most of us have come to at least realize that It's not linear thing we're talking about. When Buddha sat under the Bo tree, he was trying to get out of a kala chakra, a cycle that had him and his ancestors and his sons, his son whom he named Rahula, chain around my neck. He was in a cycle, kala chakra. He's trying to get out of it, you see, and he found a way out. And before him, 550 years before Christ, Buddha lived, before him, thousands of years, that was the great exclamation. Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Hear ye, O sons of immortal bliss, sons and daughters of immortal bliss, I have found the formless reality, attaining which I will never return again to the worlds of name and form. That is, I'm not dragged back against my will into the body with bad parental upbringing, with souls who are ignorant, or other bad circumstances. My own karma is clean. My teacher's name was Asheshananda Maharaj, Swami Asheshananda. It means the bliss of having no residue left over at the end of the life. He was completely free while he lived, and he was free at the time of his passing, and he will be free always. He didn't want a post-mortem emancipation. He wanted to live that dharmic divine life that's talked about in all the scriptures, the revealed scriptures. So this ice cube, see, when it goes into a dissipated state, is that the end of it? That is, when we lose this form, is that all that happens, you see? Even if you were to take into account and accept the fact that being born and dying is all an illusion, is all a dream, that's kind of the skinny that you're told once you enter into the more deeper esoteric teachings of Vedanta and Buddhism and other paths from India, is that it's all a mental projection, it's all your dream, and it's happening on an individual level, and then it's happening on a collective level, and it's happening on a cosmic level, all at the same time, all interconnected. Like that story of Sri Ramakrishna reaching down across the lake, this big tank of water, and there's a hyacinth plant that grew there. So he reached down and grabbed one strand of it, and he told his companion, watch this. And he pulled it, and the whole thing all the way across the lake moved towards him. And he said, just like that, underneath the surface, everything's interconnected. We just don't see it. Now that interconnectedness is grounds for celebration for the New Agers, but not for the spiritual people, not for those who want to get out of that connection. And all the great beings have said so. Christ, Buddha, Patanjali, the father of yoga, has said, you want Kaivalya first and foremost. Because if you can get Kaivalya, then you can get out of the cycle of birth and death. So Kaivalya, what does it mean in English? It means isolation. That's the word they select in Vedantic circles to define the word Kaivalya. It's a wonderful word. I heard it first time right here in Hawaii at a Vedanta class on Oahu when I lived there. An old elderly teacher was teaching it, and he loved that word Kaivalya from the scriptures. There's even an Upanishad called the Kaivalya Upanishad. That's how important the word is in Sanskrit, meaning isolation. So isolation from what? Are we supposed to separate ourselves from our brothers and sisters, and separate ourselves from nature, and separate ourselves from all these things? First, we're to realize the interconnectedness of all of it, and then we're to transcend it, basically. We're supposed to be masters of nature, not bond slaves, in other words. And once you fall into that way of thinking that God is in the world, then you've turned God into a form. And that's a mighty no-no, philosophical circles who know what they're talking about. Circles who are akamai, sorry live streaming audience if you don't know Hawaiian words, but who are in the know about the highest truths. That's a no-no. You don't turn God into a form. Humans, children, angels, whatever form you want to assign to God, it's not going to work because God is essentially formless and it can't change. The way they describe that in philosophy is a parinama. It's transformationless. It's one of the ground rules of non-duality. God cannot transform itself. It is what it is, essence, from the very get-go. And it does not go through transformation. So if you apply that rule to everything in the realms of name and form, nama rupa vihaya, then you're going to find out that everything's changing. So that can't be God, because God doesn't change. What I'm seeing is a play. I see a dance in front of my face. So the early Samkhya yoga teachers like Lord Kapila, and when you say that word in India, everyone who is Akamai goes, oh, Lord Kapila, he taught everyone. He was one of the early grandsires of the teaching. They talk about that in terms of Koivalya, knowing how to transcend nature. That is, you master nature. And once you master nature, then it doesn't matter whether you get into the body or leave the body. You can do it consciously. So it's not like being born and dying is a horrible thing, that life is a horrible thing. It's that it's an illusion. You're not born in the first place, and that which is not born can never die. Basically, the essential message of the Gita, isn't it? And on the battlefield to Arjuna, Krishna says, the unreal never is, the real never ceases to be. The truth about both of these have been known by the seers. The unreal, Maya, never really existed. It was just a dream you had. Like Ramakrishna said, it was a morsel of food you ate and forgot what it tasted like 2 minutes later. It's down the throat and gone. So the unreal never is, but the real never ceases to be. It's an eternal principle, set in stone, as it were. It's a ruined stone. It's like the word Om carved in the eternal granite of your own consciousness, or as the Muslims say, basically like written in letters of molten gold across the interior of your mind. And all you have to do is meditate and see them there, written there. Om eternal, you see, Allahu Akbar, or however way you want to say that in whatever tradition. So this devotion of non-separation has to do with this eternal, stainless position. And for us, it has to be a position. I mean, as I was saying last week, enough of Hatha Yoga, enough of sitting in so many asanas. What we want is a mental asana that's going to keep us in the truth for eternity. That is, if we want to get into an asana, let's get into the asana of Ayamatma Brahma asana. Ayamatma Brahma means this self is Brahman. Let's get into the asana of Akhandananda asana. See, the bliss of absolute, unchangeable, indivisible reality. Let's put the mind in that position. Because everything is really here, is really a mental asana. Everything is a seat for divinity, isn't it? And the divinity is hidden inside of the forms. Even science is beginning to understand a little bit. See? It's hidden in the form of particles. So when the ice cube turns into liquid and then turns to vapor and then turns into the dissolved state, there's another atmosphere. It just doesn't end in the physical akasha, it ends in the prana akasha. It goes to the next level, and that's where your ancestors have gone. Like a little Russian doll tucked inside of another Russian doll, the bhutakasha, the physical realm of names and forms and time and space and based in causality, is tucked right back in the vital energy, the energy that Christ talked about when he said, man does not live by bread alone. He's living by another form of energy, not kinetic, not electric, not nutritious. It's a vital force. In fact, probably the best two words we have to define the word prana is vital force. Élan vital, if you want to put it in French. Some people know about it, healers, shamans, but the yogis not only know about it, they've actually used it to get in and out of the body consciously through a network of hundreds and thousands of nerves. When you read about this in the scriptures, you don't put it together maybe for years, that what they're trying to tell you is that this human body, with its hundreds and thousands of nerves, is just a physical composite of the inner subtle body, which has hundreds and thousands of other nerves. And that's where the essence of this ice cube goes when it dissipates. It takes on the subtle body, just like you do in Dream Tonight. That's why they hook up A with the waking state and U with the dreaming state, because you've gone into the U of the eternal principle. The letter U. See, it's the Vishnu part, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva part of the Trinity. See, and then when it goes into its gaseous state, oh, guess what? It's time to destroy the whole thing. Let's dissolve it, and you're in the Shiva state. See, the M of Om. And does it stop there? No, you disappear into Turiya, and Turiya means the fourth. It didn't even, like a good non-dualist, didn't even try and assign any profound name to it. See, just leave it alone. It's just the fourth state. But then somebody came along and said, there's Turiyatita, fifth state. So there's transcendence or formlessness, and then there's higher formlessness. Sri Krishna talks about that in the Gita too. He says, behold my divine Maya. So he's talking about this display. And he says, now behold the Purastika body, eightfold. Purastika means eightfold. It's got the five elements, the five senses rather, and the body, mind, mechanism, and so forth. It's eightfold. Now behold my formless state. I'll tell you what that is. And he talks about all the negative and positive aspects of our mind that have leaked into our lifetime, you see, into our lives. And then he said, oh, but don't get waylaid or surprised by, taken aback by these three. Know that beyond this form state of nature and the formless state of the mind, there is a higher formlessness, the Supreme Being. And that is me, that is Brahman. I am that. So beyond form and formlessness, there's supreme formlessness. So this ice cube, or this iceberg, if you want to put it in terms of the collective mind, melts down at the end of long periods of time. They're called yugas. I showed you that chart last week, the target chart, about the Brahma's day and Brahma's night. How many hundreds and hundreds of yugas and mahayugas are dissolved back into just one day and one night of Lord Brahma, the creator, because time just abandons the equation. It becomes so expanded and so long that you're just posited in one eternal moment, and that moment is blissful. So this is how you feel in samadhi, timeless, go in and out of it like you go in and out of deep sleep tonight. Don't even know it happened. But when you're in it, no worlds existed, no name, no form, no children, nothing, no emotions, no problems. It was all subtle bliss. So that's the way a person feels who's taking the path of the fathers. We call it the sunlit path or the moonlit path. If you take one of those paths at the time of death, you leave the body out of this network of passageways, network of nerve endings, nadis they call them, that are subtle, that can't be detected and can't be dissected. And they're all associated with one of these 7 chakras, basically. The yogis will go in and out of these higher chakras, and the gurus in and out of this chakra, and so forth. But the bound souls who have not reached Kaivalya, which means, again, isolation from name and form, they're still bound in by the Kala Chakra, the wheel of birth and death, they'll have to be on constant concourse with the lower 3 chakras, what Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa called eating, drinking, and sex life. They're constantly into that level of existence, and they look no further. They don't want to go further. They don't even know there is a further or a deeper place to go. So a teaching like the 5 little Russian dolls is very handy to know that all of these beings, human beings, animals, insects, plants, microorganisms, planets, ether, air, fire, water, earth, objects, atoms, molecules, quarks, subatomic particles, so forth, down to the minutest little particle vibrating at a billionth of a second, is all part of the Bhutakasha. Bhuta means beings or forms, basically. Sometimes it can mean ghosts and spirits. But they're more of a part of the astral portion of that Bhutakasha. But look at the Pranakasha. If you take the path of the ancestors, you get to the Pranakasha, space of life force. That's what we're talking about, the next level of ether. If all we are is physicists, and all we believe in is the material world and the senses and their enjoyment of it, then we haven't put science and theology together yet. And what to speak of theology, which is beginning to leave us high and dry, and science is becoming more of our friend. We should speak something about cosmology, then we should speak something about philosophy, and finally we should speak something about spirituality, because that's the march inward. First, there's good cosmology. Talk about asanas, right? Tattva Vidyananda asana. I have the bliss of knowing all the 24 cosmic principles that are the makeup of Divine Mother's universes. And I go to death with that. So when I come back in my next lifetime, I kept that asana. I still know the 24 cosmic principles in my next lifetime. I don't have to learn all about them again. This is called a past master, an enlightened person. His grammatical rules didn't get him anything. His intellect didn't get him anything. But Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Mudamate, Samprapte Sanihite Ka, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrim Karne. That was the great non-dualist singing Bhaja Govindam, adore the Lord. Gee, I thought non-dualists didn't believe in the God with form. Well, why is he writing a song to him then? And why does the song say, adore the Lord, O fool? Muddhamate means you fool. Adore the Lord. Because when the time of death comes, your grammatical rules and regulations aren't going to do you any good. You're going to need something else to pass through along the path, the moonlit path, to the sunlit path, the two eternal paths of the world, and find your way beyond nature and beyond form. Kaivalya. What Father of Yoga later talked about in terms of Kaivalya. It was suggested by a lot of the earlier teachers, like Lord Kapila, and so forth. So all of these vibrating particles that make up these objects in space and time, the vibration gets subtler. Don't stop there, science. Don't stop there, Mr. Physicist. Don't stop there, Mr. Quantum Physicist. Make the bridge that these seers and saints have known for hundreds and thousands of years, and why they keep coming back into the body to remind us that the kingdoms of heaven lie within you. And they're very well defined in this tradition, I can tell you. Christ might have had fishermen to teach and had to find some very easy ways to explain to them. But Shankara had jnanis that were steeped in jnana yoga for many lifetimes as his disciples, so he had to find very profound ways of explaining it to them and discoursing about it and cutting it up, so talking about it, having concourse, speaking the truth, attending holy company. Otherwise he wouldn't have written Satsangatve Nisangatve Nisangatve Nirmohatvam Nirmohatvam Nishchalitatvam Nishchalitatve Jivanamukti. How do you put a bunch of profound words into a very simple song and sing it to people? So they get the idea that through holy company, Satsangatve, you get rid of your delusion. Nirmohatvam. Moha means delusion. And Nirmohatvam gives you Nishchalitatvam. There's somebody in the audience here named Nishchaya. It means resolve. It means a resolve to get enlightenment in this lifetime, to put away all childish things, to destroy the superstitions, to see through the mysteries and the appearances of things. I will know what there is there. I will not be scared like by a bugaboo, Vivekananda said. In this lifetime I will know what is there, or I will die trying. So to strip all the coverings off the gift. Remember last week we had that other target chart that's called the Adara system. The outer covering is the body, the inner covering is the prana. You see the connections already between the two systems, the Vedantic and the Yoga Vishishta system. And the inner covering, that is the mind, you see. And then next covering is the intellect. And the intellect, and finally you have the Anandamaya Kosha, the ego, the cosmic ego in this case. So you have the 5 sheaths, or the 5 koshas they're called, and you're looking at them as coverings over the gift. You must strip the wrapping off the gift. See? And that gift is your diamond nature, as the Buddhists call it. So it's resting there inside of 5 coverings. And guess who's responsible for those? God? Devil? No. Both God and devil are in Mrs. Jones, see, and Mr. Jones. They both have this very difficult prospect of gaining Kaivalya. Why? Because they themselves have engaged in what Krishna said this morning as we chanted the Gita here at 6 in the morning for our meditation together. Sankalpa sannyasa. Sarva sankalpa sannyasa. They need to renounce all mental projections, because mental projections are what created the worlds of name and form in time and space based on karma. So as Vivekananda said, and I saw it on this nice little calendar that one of my students bought me in India about a month ago. See, and just day by day you turn it, you see, and then there's another Vivekananda picture, another one of his sayings, you see. And the one for 1st of February, was that idea. He says, don't blame anything or anyone, blame yourself. This is a situation you have gotten yourself in. You can't palm it off on God or devil or ancestors or your upbringing or other things that we're making excuses for ourselves for. No doubt they all have a part in it, but you're the one that invited yourself into this party. So you have to get yourself out of it. So that's Kaivalya. Freedom from nature, freedom from form, freedom from name. Oh, can you tell me what gender my child is? See, it's a little bit too early to be superimposing gender issues on him. It's not even out of the womb yet. And what does it matter whether he's male or female? What matters is there's Atman in him. You see? And so we celebrate birthdays, right? Happy birthday, happy birthday. The seer goes, ay, ay, ay. Let's celebrate the day of your getting out of the body, the day of your freedom, the day of your isolation from nature. So it's not going to be a popular concept. Why do you think I don't have many students? I talk like this, see? But this is the truth. You should know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. You didn't see Christ and Buddha and Krishna endearing people to embodied existence. Birds have nests, foxes have holes. Son of Man has no place to lay his head here. Does that sound like he wants you in the body? On earth? They asked Vivekananda once, should a man be reborn? Vivekananda said, I certainly hope he will not. Not until he can do so in full consciousness. So there's a standard there to keep. When any soul approaches the worlds of name and form along this network of nadis and invites the prospect of entering into the world of name and form, gross world, the bhutakasha, the physical world, then they breathe a sigh of trepidation. Sigh of trepidation. This is going to be a hard road to hoe. It is for everyone, from ant to avatar. That's why Buddha said, first noble truth, there is suffering. There are Buddhists out there that are trying to remove the suffering in the world. It's impossible. You're not a Buddhist if you don't acknowledge the first noble truth. Try and remove the unnecessary suffering. That part you had a part in. You had a finger in creating this. Try and remove that first. Get Kaivalya and then help others. And in order to do that, you're going to have to say there is suffering, and then there's a cause for suffering. And then there's a way out of suffering, and then you come to the Eightfold Path. So follow through on his system. The Four Noble Truths is a great Buddhist system. That's at the foundation. That's how you qualify yourself to be a Buddhist. But if you can't accept even the first noble truth, you can't really be a Buddhist. And in Christianity, is it any different? Padre Pio, they ask him, you're Christ-like. You're developing stigmata and so forth. Christ must be manifesting through you. Will you remove my suffering, sir, is their next question. And Padre Pio's response, if you knew how valuable your suffering is to getting out of suffering, then you wouldn't ask me to remove it. So it sounds like Patanjali's yoga. We should face off. Like that story of Vivekananda walking through the foothills of Himalayas and so forth, and these baboon-like monkeys got on his trail. So he started running, made the mistake of starting to run from them, and they ganged up more and came after him. He was running through this little town. Somebody up in the upper floor of one of the buildings said, "Turn and face the brutes." And so he turned and raised his staff, and they all disbanded. Just like that, they were gone. So he said, he used that teaching in the rest of his life. He said, you should, as a yogi or a yogini, you should turn and face the brutes. Disperse them. Because you were the one that attracted them. So only you can disperse them. So gain a little power, gain a little strength, raise the staff, disperse your bugaboos, so your bugbears, and be free. And so you begin to work your way out of this self-imposed, self-actuated net of suffering called Maya, which as soon as you see it disappears. Rather like a fog bank, Maya. You imagine all sorts of things when you're down in it. As soon as the sun dissipates it, you see it was nothing. It was nothing. So the devotion of non-separation is like that. It's a mental asana that you develop. You say, now I see, I love what I know, and I know what I love. And I'm going to have to rid the mind of all these false superimpositions, see through the worlds of name and form by knowing their constituency, their ingredients, come to know the 24 cosmic principles, and I've reached a cosmological conclusion. That's why I started off today's class saying, Vedanta Siddhanta Niruktiresha. Vedanta Siddhanta means the conclusion of the Vedanta is that all is one. Ever one. It isn't something that we made one or we have to make one. It is non-separation. That's why the sense of separation is such a difficult barrier to get over. When you're at the sense of separation, you're really encountering your own ego. And the ego is called the separate I maker. When really there is no separate I, there's just one Brahman, and you're it. Tag. You see. Cosmological tag, you're it. The buck stops with you, as they say. So now, get rid of that sense of separation. Remove that stick from the water and see one again. Or, if thine eye be single, you shall know the truth. Make these two eyes single. Or awaken the inner eye of wisdom, Jnana Chakshu. Whether you put it in terms of how Muhammad said it, how Buddha said it, or how Christ said it, it really amounts to the same thing. This innate, intrinsic oneness is there. And that you can have devotion to. That you can have fealty for. That you can dedicate yourself to. Now, you need friends in high places for that. So, why are you Xing God with form out of the equation? That's what the Vedantists would say. God is with form, God is beyond form, and God is beyond both form and formlessness as well. Right? That's what we talked about today. It's like Krishna saying, here's my divine nature, that is nature meaning air, earth, fire, water, and ether. Here's the mind, the parastika body, and here's formlessness. So there's a supreme formlessness which is the origin of all things. If there was an origin, or if you could use an origin, that's called ajativada. So make sure you put that in side by side with the parinama. God does not transform. There is no transformation possible in Brahman. So every time I'm seeing change, I'm not seeing Brahman at all. I'm seeing the surface waves on the ocean. I'm not seeing the ocean yet. So I must dive deeper. Dupa, 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 the song goes in India. So deeper, deeper, deeper. Dive deep into the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths there, you will find the gem of love. Go seek, O mind, go seek Vrindavan in your heart, where with his loving devotees Sri Krishna sports eternally. And so they sing like that. Shri Krishna Vishnu Madhu Kaita Bare Bhakta Anukampam Bhagavan Murare Trayashramam Keshava Lokanata Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Mandara Mule Vada Naviramam Bindadara Purita Vedunadam Gogopa Gopi Jana Bhajya Samstam Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Om Damodara Damodara Jaya Damodara Om Damodara Damodara Jaya Damodara Damodara. So this is Krishna, singing about love for Krishna. Keshava is the name used for Krishna. Very same Krishna that we heard this morning in his discourse in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita on Dhyan Yoga, the yoga of meditation. Very same one who talked about transcending name and form. How did he put it? It's the only mention of meditation in all 18 chapters, basically. And one other called Buddhi Yoga at the end refers also to meditation. But he says, sit yourself, neither too high nor too low, in one position, one asana. And then cover over your asana with, sacred grass, a cloth or deerskin or whatever you use. And then direct your mind down the bridge of the nose into the heart Meditate on me and me alone. Me is capitalized, by the way, in the text. It means meditate on the Supreme Lord. That's Ishvara. You need friends in high places. Are you going to remove the foundation for the universe and just try and jump to formlessness? Krishna doesn't advise that. In the Gita, Arjuna asks him, which is the better path? And this really applies to the devotion of non-separation. Which is the better path? The path of the Gyanis who love the formless reality, or the path of the Bhaktas? It's been a question that's been on the mind of everyone who's ever entered into a Hindu fold or path, which includes Buddhism, is what's the best way to proceed, according to my temperament. And so Krishna says, basically both ways are good, but the path of the formless is extremely difficult to navigate. Extremely difficult. You need an ideal. You need an ideal of God in form. You need to get to the Father through the Son. Remember Christ saying that? You need to get to the Father through the Son. So most beings will go that route. And as they go that route, they're brooking heaven, you see. They're getting to the heaven realm. The lower heaven and higher heaven, they're called in our tradition. We don't mass heaven into one place where we go, where the streets are, paved with gold, running with milk and honey. It sounds like a sticky mess to me. Basically, you want to go beyond the lower heavens, which is the realm of your ancestors, and beyond the higher heavens too, and get beyond into the realm of no return, where you're not pulled down by karma anymore to the human body. All of a sudden hanging upside down, your mantra is wah, wah, wah. See? And the first thing you feel is pain. So you're yanked into a pair of lungs, basically. And it's the last thing you'll feel when you leave the body, a pair of lungs. Only you'll be without them then. The Tibetan Buddhist Book of the Dead says one long out breath, hoo. So you start out with wah, wah, and you end up with hoo. But during your entire life, you didn't ask, who am I? The who was H-U, but you didn't turn it into W-H-U, W-H-O, who, like an owl, you see. So that predicament you've gotten yourself into is also cyclic. Yes, there's more bad news. You're going to go through it again and again in repetitious fashion and never know the truth of why you're suffering things, never know the meaning of things. When the seers come back again and again and try and teach you the cosmological meaning, 24 cosmic principles, 5 elements, 5 senses of knowledge, 5 senses of action, 5 pranas, 5 tanmatras, 4-fold mind, and the Mahat, the great mind. There it is right there, everything you need to know. Now, memorize it, put it inside the hopper, and go and do whatever you want anywhere. I now know the 24 cosmic principles, and guess what? They've been the foundation for every system that's come along. That homework Lord Coppola did is found in every system in the East. And they all played off it some way. Shaivism took it and added 12 more principles on top, 36 cosmic principles. The 24 they didn't change, they didn't mess with. Buddhism, based a lot on that early homework, with its 5 aggregates and its 5 this and its 5 that. So just another language. Vedanta, based right there in the Samkhya, with one major difference. They didn't call nature a separate entity, because they realized nature came out of the soul. And that's a very good realization to have if you want Kaivalya. If nature came out of the soul, then I can return it to the soul. And that's a very handy power to have. See, the yogi wants that kind of power. I want to dissolve the mind stream, is how we've been saying it. Quit PMSing, start DMSing. Dissolve the mind stream. This is what you want to do. And you do it every night in deep sleep. Why aren't you doing it in meditation, you see? You do it naturally, you're the best meditator in the world. Nobody can surpass you. You go into samadhi every night, but you just don't remember it. Why? Because the vibrating particles are changing at a billionth of a second. It's all too fast for you, so slow them down. Slow them down. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, Father of Yoga said, right? Second sutra, Patanjali, first section, first pada. Samadhi is approached, I would say, by stopping the mind from vibrating. You can affect that in different ways. One of them is concentrating on the primal vibration. Where did all vibration come from? Well, let's jump to the Testaments. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's where it all came from. And Christ was talking about beginnings, wasn't he? But he knew there was no beginning to anything and no ending. So he didn't want his religion based on Genesis. That was the work of the church fathers. That's cosmology to us, right? I mean, Lord Kapila might have presented us with the 24 cosmic principles, but why did he do that? To show what a good Samkhya yogi he was? See? No, so that we could transcend it. Once you know them, then you don't fear them anymore. If you don't know them, you still have fear. And that fear causes you to retreat from them. Or that fear causes you to accept them as being real. You've accepted the worlds of name and form based in time and space to be real, but all the scriptures are saying the world is illusory, the world is transitory, the world is ephemeral. What part of this are you not understanding? See? Give them up. Every great soul has come to tell you to give them up. It's just that you're not monks, so you can't give it up externally. So you must give it up internally. You can move through the world without any danger, without any fear, if you know the worlds are not real. If you know the body's not real. Kids go around with, no fear t-shirts, and I grab them by the shoulder and I say, what's no fear mean to you? Oh, it's taking a skateboard down the railing of my, sidewalk at school. And not fearing that I'm going to fall and hurt myself. I said, well, I have another definition of fearlessness for you. We will crush the stars to atoms, and we will unhinge the universe. Don't you know who we are? We're the children of God. So we'll crush the stars to atoms. We will unhinge the universe of space and time. That's how Vivekananda put it. In a letter to one of his Western devotees. So this cosmological structure is to be seen through, and all the seers have also given you a version of that as they've gone along. You've got the 8 limbs of yoga and Patanjali's yoga, and you've got Lord Vashishta's 5 atmospheres, 5 Akashas, and you've got the 24 cosmic principles of Samkhya and the 36 tattvas of Shaivism. Everywhere you look in this vast, beautiful land of Mother India, who has not just one prophet and one holy book, but hundreds and dozens of each. You find reference to these cosmological systems. They're very important for you to know. People think, oh, what's in a word? What's in knowledge? What's in the scriptures? I don't need them, I can just love. No. The soul that can do that is a past master. If you see them doing that, dancing and singing and loving, and they've already gone through the knowledge they needed to understand in order to be able to dance without affectation, without pretending or without hidden fear. Like a plume of smoke, they describe Sri Ramakrishna's dance. When Mother got into him and made him dance, it's like a combination of a lion and a plume of smoke when he moved. And completely taken up in samadhi, not conscious of anyone watching. So it's not like, let's put on our new clothes and go and dance and sing and chant tonight at Kirtan. See? Not like that. The homework has been done, it's been accomplished. One of the songs in India says, don't you know, O mind, you should awaken. You must awaken in this lifetime. Don't you know that every child who does not study is spanked soundly and put to bed without dinner? Do your studies. See? Come to know these systems. There are 6 of them. And those are just the orthodox ones. Then you've got the non-orthodox ones like Buddhism and Jainism and Sikhism. They're all wonderful, and they're all filled with this wisdom that's indigenous to Mother India. Who's called the mother of all religions, by the way. She didn't get that name for no good reason. So as you moved along in your devotion and intensified your devotion to the God with form, you began to get glimpses of this formless reality. And as you moved inwardly, you took the path of the celestials, and transcended your ancestors, and you got to this realm of the mind-born sages and seers, the mind-born sons. We were talking about that yesterday, weren't we? The idea that these beings have transcended the physical cause. Physical cause means food, sperm, ovum, fetus, body, brain, development, death. That's the physical cause and how it ends. That's what the West believes in. Only one cause. Basically starts with food and ends with you become food for others. Isn't it? Your body becomes food for insects or for fire or for animals, whatever. It starts with food, it ends with food, as far as you're concerned. And that's how you go from cradle to grave, thinking that. See? One lifetime, that's it, zip. Maybe some inferior Buddhist teacher got in there and said, oh, you know, there's no self. So you think, it's just all empty. There's no personality. You haven't even come to know the personality yet. What to speak of the divine personality you're headed for. You get to the Father through the Son. As far as formlessness is concerned, forget that ideal for now. Let's find out what that entrance place is. Let's find out what Koivalya is. How can we isolate ourselves from this attachment to name and form and know ourselves as a purely formless entity when we're proving it to ourselves every night in deep sleep? Because that's where we have our bliss, not here. You might have noticed. In the Gita today, Krishna was singing to Arjuna about yoga. He said, let this powerful, soul-freeing system of yoga be called the destruction of pain. Yoga is the destruction of pain for that one who follows it. The destroyer of pain. So if you're in yoga, you remain in yoga, and you have that equipoise, that balance, then pain might go looking for you, karma might go looking for you, Yama might go looking for you, God of death, but they can't find you. Because you have become one indivisible, birthless, deathless verity. And fear is gone, doubt is gone, ignorance is gone. And that's the way I choose to live, thank you very much. If I'm in the body at all, I'll come in that way, no other way. It's my bottom line. It's my default zone. So you're upping the ante, you see, in this game, my game of chance, when you talk about transcending your ancestors. How many people are even talking about that? There are nations in this world right now who are worshiping their ancestors and their ancestors alone. That's all they're interested in. May I eat sumptuous food on gold plates with my great-grandchildren. That's what they're interested in. That's what you ask the Lord for. That's what the clever worldly man asks the Lord for. May I eat sumptuous food on gold plates with my great-grandchildren. He's very clever, because now he knows he's got riches, he's got old age, long life, he's got everything he needs right there. Progeny. And that's all he's interested in. The thought that maybe he's a formless entity never occurs to him. The thought that he's a birthless, deathless being, and so are his children, never occurs to him. The thought that all gold and all wealth in the world is his already never occurs to him. He's thinking about going and getting it, you see. I mean, there are songs in India that we've sung that are just exactly like that have that kind of message for us. He sings, Jimmy Sumi Ranate Ati Sukha Ji Sumi Ranate Ati Sukha Pae Rao Ratane Kyun Chor Diya. It's basically, consider this, O mind, the Lord is the source of all existence. Can you really afford to forget him? You flatter the millionaire, but you forget to worship Lord Ram, who's the owner of all wealth. So when you get up to these realms, you begin to think in terms of real wealth. What's true wealth mean? And this is where, say, the question about the pranas come in. You see, you think of prana, there's a prana that digests food. And so people teach that, you see, in the Ayurveda schools. And then they forego completely that prana is also the power of digesting wisdom. It also affords the mind the ability to digest wisdom. What about that? Or the up-moving prana helps the thoughts to become inspired. It doesn't just help you sneeze. It's not just a matter of pranayama, but there's a prana whose subtle form actually helps you inspire your mind. And if you seize a hold of that and get a hold of it, you will never brood or be depressed again. And I can attest to it. Never brood or be depressed again. There's no reason for depression. You have everything inside you need. And just don't grasp onto it as if it were a separate reality. Or try and turn it into a possession. Skirt the sense of separation. And along with it, skirt the sense of ownership. And also the sense of agency. Can't own anything. It's already yours. I mean, the slap on your hand teaching is you can't own anything because you shouldn't get attached to it. But my teacher said the true yogi attaches and detaches at will. Not just a matter of you have to detach from it. That's a teaching for people who are attached. But what about those who don't have necessarily any inadvertent attachment to something? They don't have to detach. So, same with your actions, sense of agency, kartritva, we call it. You never think I'm doing. You think the Lord is doing through me. Even that's a dangerous proposition at first. So you have to be very careful with the sense of agency. So you work your way up, see? And finally you get to that sense of separation, that line drawn on water, which is called the ego. And this is what begins to disappear up here at this level of the highest heaven, these mind-born suns and so forth. The chittakasha, they call it. Chittakasha means space of thought. You understand what we're saying here, not only to ourselves, but to the physicists and the quantum physicists and to the religionists. You see, basically, there are many kingdoms of heaven within you, and we're beginning to identify them for you. We're not just putting them out there in some amalgam and not citing any verification for the scriptural slokas or sutras. These have been long known for hundreds and thousands of years prior to Christ's coming. I mean, Vashishta taught this to Ram when he was a teenager. Imagine how long ago that was. It's before Krishna. Ram was an early avatar. When you read the Yoga Vashishta teaching, he's teaching, his charge is the yet-to-be avatar of the age, the unseen avatar of the age. He's in his teens. Everyone loves him. He's the perfect young child, but nobody knows he's the avatar of the age, hidden behind 5 sheaths. They don't know that about themselves yet, so that they're also hidden behind 5 sheaths. Their essence is also hidden behind 5 sheaths. So you have to come. Someone has to come and show you. Here, look, I'll tear this off for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here I am, my diamond nature. The Buddhists don't use that term for no good reason. Diamond nature, your essence. We call it the Atman, and they say, "Oh no, it's Anatman. What about the teaching of Anatman?" And I said, "That's a hamkar to us. The lack of a self means emptiness to us. You're calling it shunyata, and we're calling it ahamkara. The ego is empty. Ramakrishna called the ego an onion. It's all peelings and no center, and it makes you cry. You peel it, so you're going to have to peel off these 5 sheaths, or one by one transcend these levels in meditation. Don't let me forget to say that this isn't something you wait to do till after you die. You realize how helpless you are after you die, or how free you are after you die, depending. You could be so free that you just go celebrate in some heavenly realm, and then before you know it, the brick on your tail drags you back down to earth. You understand what I'm saying? Ramakrishna says the kids catch the mongoose finally, and they know he's a slippery little thing and can get away at the slip of an eye, the blink of an eye, so they tie a brick to his tail. he's so wily and so strong that he still manages to escape. And he goes up the wall into his hole. But they know it's just a matter of time before that brick will drag him out. He'll get tired, and down he'll come, and so he's bound again. So Sri Ramakrishna saw that happening in the villages of India, so he said, oh, that's just like the soul. It gets free for a minute, and then the brick tied to its tail, its own karma, drags it back down to earth, and it finds itself in a body again, in ignorance, without knowing the truth. And how many times does it have to experience that? There has to be a lifetime where you will awaken to these truths. I mean, imagine those beings, the 12 apostles of Christ, the noble 8 of Buddha, the 22 direct disciples of Adi Shankaracharya, the 16 apostles of Sri Ramakrishna in this age. Imagine being one of them. Swami Vedananda, if you read his writings, Kali, one of Sri Ramakrishna's young devotees, said that when he practiced meditation as a teenager, he was having samadhi-like experiences. He said, I'd sneak out of my home at night because my parents didn't want me to go see that crazy Paramahamsa at the Kali temple, you see. I'd sneak out when they were asleep and go and meet with him and talk with him. And ever since I started meeting with him, I started having the most profound meditations. You're reading this in his own testament, and you can just taste it through the pages. And it inspires you to go and have that kind of meditation yourself. Have samadhi. Practice samadhi. There are lower samadhis too. You don't have to jump to the highest. It's not going to be possible anyway. The highest samadhi is given by Mother. In right timing, auspicious timing it's called. Sarva Mangala Mangalye, she will give you all auspiciousness at the right moment. But in the meantime, you have to qualify yourself. So these lower samadhis are to be had, they're to be experienced. See, that's why last week we were looking at this chart. And we actually ended up at that chart. There's Mirabai with her one-string instrument, probably ektar or something, and she's plucking and singing to Sri Krishna as I just did to you. She has a beautiful song to Sri Krishna, and she wrote many songs and composed many songs in her great devotion to Sri Krishna. And she had Sri Krishna in her heart, and she could see him and play with him and commune with him. And she was a great ecstatic knower of God. So we talked about how she became dear to God, Samipya. How she visited the same loka as God. Salokya means, if we're talking about these, they're really lokas, aren't they? They're like 5 lokas. In this system they're called Akasha. We don't have any equivalent in English for those. Heaven, inner worlds. I mean, what can you say? But they have specific Sanskrit words in these different traditions for these kingdoms of heaven within you. Lokas, Akashas, and so forth. So, if you are Salokya, that means you've visited the same realm as God. You're following him around like a little puppy. When are you going to be born next? I want to go with you. You see. Take me with you. You have a great enthusiasm for the Avatarvada, the path of those avatars who incarnate again. And by the way, you're not going to get caught short thinking it, waiting for Christ to come when he's probably already come 4 times. In my estimation, if you ask me, Christ has already come 3 or 4 times at least. I mean, really, he's come 5 billion times because we're all Christ. Especially the Westerners. We must have a very deep connection with Christ, or Moses, or Muhammad, or Abraham, to be the way we are. We even begin to look like our ideals. We're born with the features of our ideals. Caucasian, Oriental, Occidental, so forth. It's not an accident that you look Occidental. It's not an Occidental accident. So these are your samskaras. These are your tendencies from previous births that you're now wearing on your body. In the old days, back in the 60s, right, they say, look in the mirror, look at your eyes, look at your features. But nobody ever took that experiment very deeply. They were taking on a level of the ego. It was, maybe I should cut my hair, you see, or almost cut my hair. It happened just the other day. It was getting kind of long. Could have said it was in my way. But I didn't, and I wonder why. I feel like letting my freak flag fly. See? That was the 60s, right? You look in the mirror and you say, look at those eyes, you see. Maybe you have to think, maybe God is in there somewhere. Maybe the eyes are the window to the soul. But if you really looked on, you'd say, how far apart are my eyes? What's the shape of my nose? Is my chin cleft or tucked or prominent? What's my cranial vault look like? You see, you're looking at your spiritual physiognomy. You're looking at your prarabdha karma when you look in the mirror. You're looking at what you brought to the table from your past lifetimes, wearing on your features right now. So you can tell a lot about yourself. And we're not talking about, fat or thin or gorgeous or ugly according to some particular fad in some culture in some period of time. We're talking about taking a good look at your features and making the connection back to your past karma. And that's why the guru can read you. If they know that, if they're into that spiritual art, spiritual physiognomy, they can read you when you walk in the room. How you walk, how you talk, how you present yourself, how you question, and how you look. They can tell so much about you in just a few minutes. They can tell where you've been. Sort of like, somebody wearing very nice shoes, but the polish has become thin and cracked. You can almost tell where those shoes have been. Your body is like a shoe. It's been to different places, and if you look closely, you can tell where it's been, which realm it's been in, and how long it's spent there, and what its propensities are for getting out, going beyond. It's all about spiritual struggle, striving. It's all about sadhana. You're not going anywhere in the moral, ethical circle, especially nowadays. And you must get to the Dharma. The circle of moral and ethics is meant to get you to the Dharma. That's a higher circle. If you can get to the Dharma, you stop just hearing about the truth, you start practicing it. You take vows around it. They're called precepts. And you start hearing some of these truths that are bantered about almost in commonality amongst the devotees. They start talking about this as if they're true. Go figure. See? You're not spending time with the intellectuals anymore. You've graduated to those who are knowers of Brahman. At least knowers of cosmology, so they can tell you about every ingredient of your body and every ingredient of the inner makeup of the worlds and so forth, so that you can come to know it finally and for all time and transcend it. To know it is to transcend it, as I said. No more fear of it. Then when that happens, you're on a dharmic path, and dharma leads to sadhana. So another circle from dharma, then you have to actually begin intensifying your practice. Now I'm not just sitting a half hour a day, I'm sitting 2 or 3 hours a day, or 8 hours. I'm going to long sessions of meditation. I have more time now to stretch out inside of myself, and my ignorance is dying. So these meditations are providing me with some very deep insights, key insights. And the most key of all is that insight into my formless nature. That I never was a form. I never had a name. And that's why they try not to give God a form or give him a name either. So Salokya is a very powerful teaching. If you're in that same realm with God, then you've been highly favored and or have qualified yourself to be there. Also, Sarupya, same form as God. As I was just saying, you begin to look like what you meditate upon. You take on the characteristics of that which you're meditating upon. You know the Vedantic teaching. Take a crystal, put it in front of a red flower, it turns red. Put it in front of a blue flower, it turns blue, and so forth. That crystal is your mind. You put it in holy company, it turns holy. You put it with thieves, it begins to steal things. The mind is just like that. And it's almost not your fault. It's just the way the mind will go. You have to give it holy company. And then all its good tendencies will come out. And then you'll transcend the mind. When they talk about purified mind, they're not talking about rendering the ordinary mind pure. They're talking about realizing the original mind. It's a very important distinction. As if you could somehow get into the dual mind and render it pure, when all the sins and horrific deeds and all the great ideas exist side by side there in some sort of amalgam, you see. That's the dual mind, called manas. Manas is also the name for your birth, manas yatvam. It's also the name for man, for human beings. So man is basically a mind, it's not a body. And the condition of that mind is going to predicate his life and his future life, coming from his previous existence. So that's why you can read your past lifetimes at some point in your meditation. It's not the thing to go for. They say, just let it happen. It's like, I think people go to parties and they say, I was Joan of Arc. See? I was Mary Queen of Scots. See? Elvis has come back, I'm him. You see? Well, no, please, not that. So it's not that we're looking for the ego. The ego never was real. It was always a charade. That's why we've taken so many of them. We're looking in our line of birth for that string through the pearls, for that essence that we are. And we didn't realize it back then. If we see our line of birth, then we'll realize that there's been a witness all this time. And that's it. Sakshibhutam. There's been a witness of every phenomenal event in time. And guess what? You've also witnessed your death and your birth. And those are very profound realizations, like Tibetan Book of the Dead kind of realizations, is that then you can die consciously when you know that. Well, I think I'll try to die, leave my body consciously this time. Gee, what a novel idea, you see. And it's just not a matter of writing a book, of rebirthing or something like that. It's a matter of actually being there and doing it, accomplishing the feat once in your life, because if you accomplish it once, then you'll have your first conscious birth. How do you think a bodhisattva started out? How do you think a Jivan Mukta started out? How do you think beings qualified themselves for Salokya, Sarupya, and Sayuja? Sayuja, by the way, is that fourth one that actually allows you to immerse in God. A very good teaching for the subject of Ananya Bhakti, the devotion of non-separation. Because it takes name and form and time and space, and it puts them all in a way of understanding that allows you to accomplish them. And it's already accomplished in your mind, right? It's your mental asana. Oh, now I see what I've been doing all this time, and what I'm doing every 24 hours. Whether it's 24 hours or 24 yugas, I've been doing the same thing all along, in this one eternal moment. Now I just keyed into it. And I did that by slowing it down. I don't know how many dreams I had when I came out of dream state and entered the waking state. And I don't know what profound dreams I had when I left deep sleep and went into Turiya. See? So I'm going to have to go back and meditate and track that. I'm going to have to retrace that. Because if I can do that, I can slow it down, sort of like slowing down the frames of a movie. So I can see how I'm accomplishing this, how Samkalpa works, how mental projection works, how I fashioned the worlds of name and form and time and space, all on my own, thank you, and how I invited all my brethren, all my brothers and sisters, into that projection. The collective mind. We're getting toward the collective mind. And that's precisely what you're getting to realize at that level of the Chittakasha, that everything is a projection of the mind, Chitta. It's all made out of thought. It's not made out of just atoms and molecules and protons and quarks and subatomic particles. That's just the physical level of it. When the ice cube dissipates, it turns into the prana. And it begins to turn itself into the essence. And that's why they say Brahman is in the bookcase, Brahman is in the dog, Brahman is in the old man tottering along on his staff, Brahman is in the green parrot with red eyes. Brahman is everywhere in the Upanishads. That's how they can say that and not fall into the misconception that God is a form. You see, it's very subtle. You cannot call God a form. So if you say God is there, God is the bookcase, you're violating the Advaitic axioms. You want to do that. But now you see how God is the substratum of the bookcase. It's the particle inside the particle. And it's an intelligent particle, and that's what you get when you get here to the causal level. That's why you have to study your deep sleep state. It's because you've reached your causal body. Your gross body, well, we've had enough Congress with that, thank you. The only way to realize that you're not the body is to leave matter alone. Because you think you are the body, you've been having so many bodies, and you've convinced yourself that bodies and worlds are real, but they're really just dreamlike. So now you have to start concentrating on your subtle body, and then that'll lead you to your causal body, and that's where you find out that everything is made up of intelligent particles at the level of the Jnanakasha, space of intelligence. And by the way, that's the very same thing that upmoving prana takes you to. All you can think about is God's wisdom. And that's the devotion of non-separation to you and your perfectly happy there. You can't even sleep at night because you lay there all night just thinking, wow, there's another connection. Look at that connection. There's another connection. How am I going to explain this to my friends? So it takes you up, right? It takes you up. You can't overlook it. The hound of heaven has already caught you. He's not on your trail anymore. He's got you. And what to speak of turning and facing the brutes? The brutes don't exist anymore, and this ocean of wisdom has just opened up to you. It's called Sampragyata Samadhi. Specifically, it's called the Samadhi of wonder, the Samadhi of overwhelm. It's what Christ experienced in the wilderness when he sat under the tree, just like Buddha did 550 years earlier, but in Christ's case, birds pecked grains out of his hair and snakes slithered across his lap and so forth. Lion laid down inside of him, didn't touch him, you see. As he was in this Jata Samadhi, this Samadhi of wonder, at everything he saw inside of him. Why else do you think the kingdoms of heaven are within me was a statement? Do you think he just said that, oh, let's come up with a nice saying here, you see? No, he was actually in the Samadhi where he saw all of this, laid out like a map going inward. And that map, maps have lines. You know where I'm going with that? Your body has lines called nerves. Your subtle body also has, like a map, lots of roads and countries and worlds and lokas. And that map also can be read by you, can be seen and read by you. You can direct yourself out to the out of the causal world into the gross world and back into the subtle worlds in the causal world. And you can even keep your causal body after death. If you want, you can go into formal samadhi. Have no hope for me anymore for the world. I'm gone and I'm gone forever, as the song sings. I'm not coming back again. Or you can keep yourself in a subtle body if you pass away, so you can work again with these beings, you see, that are suffering. The Videha Mukti and the Jivan Mukti is what we call it in our tradition, or the 10 levels of Bodhisattva in Buddhism. However way you put it, those souls have mastered the ability to hold on to their subtle body and hold on to their causal body, and that's because they know what they're made of. When you say 24 cosmic principles, then you say the 5 elements, right? And then the 5 senses, 5 motor senses, walking, speaking, that kind of thing, procreating. Then you have the 5 senses of knowledge, seeing, tasting, touching, hearing, and smelling. As soon as you understand those and go beyond to the 5 tanmatras and the mind, you're talking about 2 other realms. You already have access to 2 other realms, and you're going into them all the time, not only in sleep, even sometimes when you're waking, without knowing that they're a different world, a different level of your consciousness. You've heard of different levels of consciousness, right? But you actually shift between them, even in your waking state. Oh, I think I'll concentrate now. Somebody said this morning, he says, oh, I'm having hard trouble concentrating, one girl said. And their father told her, well, you concentrate pretty well when you're blow drying your hair for 20 minutes. Why can't you concentrate on this book? You see, it's the same principle. I learned to meditate, which was the hardest yoga for me. It took me 20 years to have good meditations because I practiced music, because my father had made me practice music, so I knew how to concentrate. I knew how to take the mind and put it on something and keep it there. So one day I said, well, why can't I just shift that same concentration power over to the scriptures or over to the meditations? It should be easy. It's the same thing. So why limit yourself? You have powers at your beck and call. Yoga is all about gaining power, not dominating power. That's an occult power. Don't confuse them. The power to concentrate basically is the beginning of yoga. Before that, you have breathing exercises and practice of nonviolence and telling the truth and all those things. But basically, when you get to that limb, number 5 and 6, you're beginning to separate yourself from objects. Does it sound familiar? Kaivalya, which I'll get to after the break. You're beginning to separate yourself from objects and concentrate on God. Like Krishna said in the Gita today, now sit, stop breathing, focus your eyes down the bridge of the nose to the heart, concentrate on me alone. That's called in Vedanta samadhana, a special type of concentration that allows you to focus on God and God alone without any other intrusions. So the mind is pretty settled by then. It's not like sitting and meditating all of a sudden, I wonder what's for dinner, see. Or that person insulted me yesterday. It was yanked here and there in tangents, back to work, the workplace or something. No, you've got the ability to detach yourself, settle yourself in one pointed meditation. If thine mind, I be single, it shall know the truth. You're there. So that causal body is a very important thing, and it's very much akin to this Vaishnava teaching of immersing in God, sayujya. It's kind of like the Buddhist nirvana put in terms of Vaishnavism. You know what I mean by Vaishnavism, those who love Krishna and those who love Ram. So it's that type of concentration that the yogi and the yogini covets more than anything else and puts them in a high state, in wonderment. Savitarka, savichara, samadhi is the words I was trying to come up with earlier. At first, everything presents itself as a wash inside of your own mind, and you're thrown into a stupor. You're gone, like Christ in the wilderness. But then the next type of samadhi comes, you can actually take an atom out of that sun of knowledge, that wash of knowledge, and pull it in and concentrate on it, and just like splitting a particle, split it open and see what's in it. Your mind is the electron microscope in this case, and that's called the next level of samadhi. Savichara to savitarka to nirvichara to nirvitarka. So one of the things that happens is that you're in no hurry anymore to uncover all of God's wisdom because it's infinite. You've heard them say it, right? I can't know everything that Mother knows. There's a song in India that says, Mother doesn't even know the extent of her own wisdom. It's infinite. So I leave you with that thought here because it's time for a break. And please take your refreshment. The live streaming audience will be able to see these charts close up as we take our 10 or 15 minute break. And we'll come back. Thank you for your attention. Om Bhadram Karnabhihi Srinayama Devaha Bhadram Pasyema Akshabir Yajatraha Stirairangayishtushtuvam Sastanuvir Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indra Vridashravaha Swasti na Pushya Vishwadevaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no brihaspatir dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we hear with these ears what is good and spiritual, and see with these eyes what is noble and uplifting. And may we, while worshipping the Lord and Mother of the universe, with healthy minds and bodies, live a life which is beneficial to ourselves and to all other beings. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.